Hey everyone. Hey Eden. Hi Renee, Peter, Sue.
Hi.
Hello.
How are we all?
That good.
Probably in the middle of the day rush.
Well, silence in a Zoom call is always a positive thing, I think.
Yeah. So I'm
It
just
has to be.
noticing. Yeah. So Elizabeth, your audio is still connecting, so she won't be able to hear us yet. But welcome everyone. I do want to respect everyone's time, so we will kick off. Oh, Renee's audio has dropped out too. Back. But yes, so we will kick off. The session is being recorded. So if at any point you do share something you're not comfortable being on the recording, just let us know. We can edit it out afterwards. But the purpose for the recording is that we have a lot of others who are obviously interested in the mission who couldn't make this particular time slot. So we will upload the recording to our YouTube channel and then share the link out to the others that have expressed an interest. But as I said, if there's anything you want to talk about or share and afterwards you realize maybe I shouldn't have put that in a public recording, just let us know, we'll fix it up. But welcome. We're here to talk all things London, London Mission and London Tech Week. So I will kick pretty much straight off into that. But before we do, would anyone like to drop in the chat window any specific questions that you would like answered today? So Eden, I know you and I had a brief chat about the mission, but if anyone has any specific questions they want addressed during the session, drop them in the chat window and we'll just make sure that we do actually hit them. And while you're doing that, we might do some quick introductions from our side. Jack, would you like to kick off first?
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Aaron. So, hey, everyone. My name's Jack Butler. I'm an analyst at Tribe, and I got to go on the London Tech Week mission last year, and I'm lucky enough to be returning this year, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be a mission lead. I'll be a mission support again with Elaine and Dom this year, so happy to help out in any capacity I can. That's about all I've got, Aaron.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. Maren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Maren. I'm part of the Tribe team, obviously, and I'm helping with the mission logistics. So I'm helping a lot with the front end and back end logistics, and I will be in London as well, helping with the 7 days on the ground, helping to guide the group from A to B, making sure that everyone has everything that they need to make this an amazing trip.
Thank you. And Elaine.
Hi, everyone. I'm a co-founder at Tribe, but will also be part of the mission support for this trip. I'm not nearly as useful as Myron and can't do as good a cartwheel as Jack, but I am there to help with any other things that you guys need help with. So look forward to talking to you all a bit more today.
Thank you. And my name's Aaron. So along with Elaine and Don, I'm one of the co-founders of Tribe, and I'll also be in London leading the mission over to the UK. This will be I think it's my 8th. I should actually know the number, but my 8th trip to the UK for London Tech Week. So very excited to be taking a group back over this year. And thanks, Eden, for dropping those questions into the channel. So that's a really good point actually about the staying on longer and less and people. So I will just add those in as talking points. But as I said, we have some content just to talk more about the mission. So basically the goal here is to talk about why the UK, why you should consider a trade mission, when is the right time to be going on something like this, and also to share some exciting news around the sponsored places by City of Gold Coast. We have both Ben and Perry on the call from City of Gold Coast as well. So thanks guys for dialing in. And actually, if you guys are around, I'd love you to say a few words towards the end as well, and just, why the City of Gold Coast is backing this and keen to support some companies going over. But at this point, I'll just share the screen and hopefully you can all see this okay. All good? Yep, sweet. So London Mission, but before we do that, just a little bit about us. So Tribe Global Ventures is a VC firm that invests in B2B tech companies from Australia and New Zealand and helps them to scale to the UK and USA. And what we look for, exactly like I described, B2B tech from Australia and New Zealand, but really around that stage where they've validated demand, they have customers who love them. It's solving like a burning problem, like a must-have problem, or it's adding revenue to the business rather than an efficiency gain or a nice to have. And we typically invest when either the UK or US market is in the short to medium term range. So we typically write checks from seed to Series A, although one investment was a Series C and one was actually pre-revenue. And most importantly, we help beyond the capital. So we do that in 3 different tiers of support. And I apologize, it's absolutely bucketing down here. So I apologize if you can hear rain in the background, but hopefully it's all clear. All good. But 3 tiers of support. So one is around the business side, and this is the work that our co-founder, Don McKenzie, does with a lot of our portfolio companies for strategic support, systems, frameworks, processes, and methodologies for helping you scale teams and companies globally. Second is markets. So helping you enter, land, and expand into the UK, US. And that's where this mission fits. And third is a piece around founder support, which includes well-being, but also how do you grow faster than your company? How do you actually manage your own time and decision making? So we do that with this awesome team. So you've met a lot of us on the call already. Don couldn't make this one. And we also have our venture partners, Michael Dempsey, who some of you would know from the Gold Coast, founder of Easy Debit, local investor as well, and Adrian DeMarco, who's the founder of Technology One, a great Queensland success story, who's also a venture partner and shareholder in our firm as well. But now we're going to talk about the exciting stuff, which is London. So first of all, why the UK? I'm actually quite bullish on the UK. I think often we tend to fixate immediately on North America as a market, and we forget about the opportunities within the Commonwealth. I heard an interesting stat once that doing business with the UK is 29% cheaper just by virtue of being in the Commonwealth and having that commonality of common law, common legal structures. And so what that translates into is 29% more runway than entering the US market, for example. It's also second in the world now for venture investments, so total investments into startups and scale-ups. For me, though, personally, if you are in B2B, I think that the epicenter that is London and just the multinationals that are based there in a very small geographical location that are all very used to dealing with startups. So they are familiar with contracts for early stage companies, investing in early stage companies, acquiring early stage companies. So as an ecosystem for accessing multinationals, it's a great place to land and get access quite quickly. But the other thing is just the level of support I think that the UK offers, not just startups, but those that are expanding into market. So my read post-Brexit, and it was interesting, we were actually on a mission in the UK when the Brexit vote happened. And since then, there's been a real doubling down by the UK government on trade relations within the Commonwealth. And so you've probably heard of the Free Trade Agreement, which has just been ratified, and there's going to be some announcements coming out soon. There's also the FinTech Bridge program. There's lots of grant incentives, particularly in regional areas like Birmingham. In addition to that, there's also a lot of government support. So UK Department of International Trade have a team on the ground here in Australia whose job it is to help you expand into the UK market, to get you plugged into customers. And then in addition to that, there's other groups, quasi-government or government funded, private sector groups like London and Partners, and then private sector like Bridgehead, for example, and all of them are there to help you land in markets. So it is quite a compelling proposition to consider the UK. And I think the other piece I've left out of that is obviously the doorway into broader Europe as well. So if you haven't considered the UK, I definitely encourage you to think about it. And one of the reasons for going on a mission like this is to understand where does the UK fit for your own company in terms of timeframes for your expansion, but also where does it fit in the sequence of UK versus US, and where should you land and expand first? In terms of the mission itself, so who's it for? Very simple: founders, investors, and ecosystem leaders. I'm not going to go on this one. It does lead into a question of when is the right time to go, and that's something we'll chat about in a moment. But in terms of why participate in a mission itself and what you can get out of attending a mission like this. So obviously understanding the UK market opportunity. Part of that is understanding where in the UK. So there are lots of regional clusters for innovation outside of London. The West Midlands, and particularly the city of Birmingham, has lots of virtues. If you're, for example, a SaaS-based business, you want good developer talent. You want again, an even cheaper like expense base, and to extend your runway even further than being based in London, then Birmingham might be a good choice for you. Equally, Manchester, if you're doing something in engineering, a lot of the Formula One teams are based out of Manchester. There's a lot of heavy R&D type engineering up there. So there are all these different regional areas, and part of this mission, you actually get briefings on all of those market opportunities in the different areas and all the different incentives that they have for you to locate to those areas. Probably the key part, though, is the actual practical steps for expansion into market. And so we have a lot of sessions. These are briefing events, workshops, where you will be told a lot about the market, but also we put you in front of a lot of Aussie founders who have been there and done it, or who are currently doing it, and they'll share all the things that they got wrong, the lessons learned, where they wasted capital, where they wasted time, who are the good suppliers to be connecting with. And so those practical tips end up being one of the key things that you'll take away from the mission. Obviously, we put you in front of customers, we put you in front of UK investors. You get to learn the nuances of, even though we all like cricket and we all drink beer and we all speak the same language, you'll be amazed just the nuances of cultural and linguistic differences, and how to interpret the British politeness when actually underneath that they're kind of telling you to hurry up and just move along. So all these little quirks and cultural differences are great lessons you can learn just to fast track your expansion. Another key piece is just plugging you into the ecosystem. So the different accelerators, the innovation hubs, support agencies. So you've got those first-hand connections. But probably the two key reasons for going on a mission like this, I would say, number one would be the cohort that goes over. So last year there were 24 of us on the mission. This year it's shaping up that there'll be 25. Sorry, no, actually there'll be closer to 30 potentially on the mission this year. And everyone is in a very similar boat. So you connect with and build. Any of you have been in one of these trade missions before, you know what it's like. You end up having the most random conversations, connecting with other humans, and you build a relationship that you can fall upon at any time of the night or day with whatever you're going through long after the mission. And that's the key legacy artifact that comes out of the mission. Specifically for us, so going for London Tech Week, if you haven't heard of London Tech Week, basically the UK government marks a week of the year, always in June. They call it London Tech Week, and anyone can run an event in the city that week. And what it means is there's about 300 events on, ranging from 30-minute pitch events through to 3-day conferences on every vertical. And there's something like 75 international delegations that come into town. 30,000 people from overseas come to London for London Tech Week. And everyone locally knows this is the week you stay in town and you clear your calendar because you want to meet with everyone you can. So it is one of those weeks where you can get access to a lot of people in the UK, a lot of investors, a lot of customers, a lot of influencers and connectors who you wouldn't otherwise get access to easily at other times of the year. And it's one of the rare weeks of the year where there's actually blue sky and sunshine in the UK. So it is a nice time to be in market as well. Lainey, Jack, Murray, is there anything there I missed in terms of why to go to the UK or why to go on a trade mission?
No, I think you've covered most of it. I think the only other thing I would add is while we will absolutely connect you with people who can be helpful to you in terms of giving you briefings on different areas to plug into, depending on your particular vertical, people who may be able to help you hit the ground running if you choose at a later date to actually base yourselves or a subsidiary in the UK. And we will absolutely connect you with Aussie founders who've been there and done it and made some mistakes. We'll also connect you with some really interesting local people too, who are really doing interesting things, and you can talk with them about their path and their experience in expanding into that market as well. So our goal really is to give you a very 360-degree immersive experience about what it would be like to grow part of your company in the UK. And I'll just reiterate Aaron's comment about the cohort. That has been one of the most powerful things, I think, is the cohort of people who go over. It is just deeply validating and supportive to go through with a bunch of like-minded people who are trying to figure out the same things. And those people will stay in your network and will be doing things at a different rate and will continue to be helpful, I think. And that's certainly what we've seen with the cohort over the last year that I've seen, but Aaron talks of that in all the previous cohorts he's taken as well.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, I mean, one of the intangibles that comes out of the mission are those relationships with other participants in the cohort actually turning into commercial transactions, for example. So I led a mission to London where one of the founders met someone who was an investor. He just listed his company and exited from that, and he ended up becoming the chairman of this founder's board. And then later, actually, that publicly listed company that he was also chairman of actually ended up acquiring that company. And there's been other interesting stories come out. And I'll just share a couple of examples of, in this category of why participate. There was a Brisbane founder, Chris Milligan, who had a startup called Adepto. He came on one of my first London missions, I think it was 2016. And he was actually thinking of just expanding straight to the US, decided just to come on the mission to the UK to understand the market for post-US. Very quickly learnt during the mission that no, we should expand to the UK first. Within 3 months, to his credit, he'd uprooted himself and his family, moved to the UK, was established in market, and within 3 years was acquired in the UK, and now spends half his life UK, half here, and invests across the two. But again, he wouldn't have understand where the UK fit in that roadmap of globalization without actually having been on the mission. Equally, there's been companies I've taken to the UK for who the outcome of the trip is the absolute clarity that no, the UK is not for us. And so rather than wasting a couple of $100,000 setting up a team and expanding in market to learn that lesson, they were able to very quickly categorically rule it out. So one of the health tech companies we took over from WA last year, they hit that same outcome of realizing no, that the trust system behind the NHS isn't right for their go-to-market strategy and what they're doing. And so they were able to rule out the UK market. Similarly, one of the founders we took last year saw the opportunity in the UK, came back home. They proceeded to tell their angel investors, because they were in the middle of raising a round. And one of the angel investors, who was prepared to write a very decent check before they went to London, just couldn't understand this new UK strategy, couldn't buy into this expansion strategy. And he ended up not investing. But for that particular founder, that was a great outcome, because like he said, this point of friction would have arisen later when I was expanding globally. And so by going on this mission, I got clarity on my globalization strategy, and it turned out my investors weren't on board with that. So I saved myself from having someone on my cap table who was always going to be in conflict with our growth. So there are these intangible benefits that come out of participating on these missions as well. In terms of the specifics, so if you haven't already read it all on the website, basically 7 days in London, including 6 nights accommodation. We create the schedule for you. So the work that Maren does is to deep dive into all of your companies and understand what you need. And then we tailor a mission around that. We basically pick the most relevant events from the London Tech Week schedule, and we augment it with a lot of our own private events. So we will deliver easily, half the schedule will be our own content or meetings that we organise, and then half will be added to by select events from the London Tech Week schedule. There you'll have the 5 of us there in London to support you on the mission as well, and it's our job to make sure you get to the right places where you need to be, and also to share our experience. So both in each of us having built our own B2B tech companies and taking them global, but also investing in others and supporting others on that journey. So we'll have lots of sidebar conversations, late night conversations, dinner conversations, bar conversations, unpacking, how do you go about doing these next steps for you? And then the simple stuff. So we have a couple of dinners included. We have an Oyster travel card, so you can have unlimited tube and bus to get around the city. We give you a guidebook. This year we'll have a workbook for you to actually answer some key questions about your structural transition to the UK market. We have a Slack community so everyone can chat and communicate. And we have a couple of pre-mission briefings to get you prepared for the market as well. In terms of what we do over there, I've already touched on some of this, but our goal is to get you in front of customers, investors, to help you answer the question of how to go about expanding into the UK, to understand the UK market. And that those last 2 for me are the key ones: what not to do. So the common mistakes and pitfalls to avoid, and getting you connected so that it's not just us helping you, but you've got an entire network of others helping you as well. The schedule, so the schedule does change, but the rough rhythm is we meet in London on the Sunday afternoon. We get together as a cohort for a briefing. We then have a few drinks just to welcome the cohort. We then head off to the broader Australian delegation. So this year there'll be about 5 delegations from Australia heading over. We'll be one of those 5. And Tribe, along with the UK government, will be hosting some drinks to bring all of the Aussie delegations together. So that's a chance to meet 160 plus Aussies in the UK before we kick off the week. And then Monday is really around briefing, understanding the market. We then move into more specific content by the end of the week. And Saturday morning, we round it all out with a bit of a decompression, reflection breakfast. And this is what that looks like. I think we've all seen photos of people having fun times with awesome people. But there's a lot of events. And the schedule does run from typically sort of 7 or 8 in the morning through to about the same time at night. And then more often than not, we end up at a dinner. And often, you've learned so much during the day and had so many experiences that you just can't sleep at night. So you end up talking to someone randomly at the hotel bar at 1 in the morning and getting insights for your business that way. I just want to touch on some of the common excuses that come up as to why you might say no to going on a trade mission. The number one I always hear is, we're not ready yet. We're not looking to go to the UK yet. We're not looking for international expansion yet. My view on that, having taken a couple of hundred founders over to 18, 19 different trade missions around the world, is that you actually can't go soon enough, because that word ready is actually highly subjective, and you don't know whether you're ready or not until you actually go to the market, and you don't know what to get ready for. So my view is you have to understand a market by being there. You have to have boots on the ground. I don't think you can replicate or gain the knowledge you need of the market without being there in person. And it's only by being there that you can actually know what ready looks like and when you will be ready and what you need to do now in order to be ready later. Another common one is that we can't afford the time. We're too busy. We've got a new product launch. We're doing this, we're doing X, we're doing Y. And the problem with that is, as founders, that never changes. We're always too busy. We always have a dozen plates spinning. It's just a question of priority. And so, look, it genuinely might not be the right time for you, but one thing I'd encourage you to think about again is the sooner you go, the sooner you can understand and feed that into your strategy to make sure you're spending spending your time now on the right things. Because without that lens, and this is a common thing I hear from founders after taking them over, is they get back home and realize, wow, we were working on all the wrong stuff. We need to ditch this 50% of what we were doing and completely shift our allocation of time and tasks over here. So I actually think of it as an investment of time and money to make sure you're working on the right stuff, because the opportunity cost of not going is greater. And so that comes down to the affording. I know, it's easy to look at the mission price and say, well, I can just pay for my flights and crash on a couch somewhere and I can do London for a week much cheaper. And that's very true. But you need to look at the doors that will be opened by virtue of being on a trade mission. And that's not to, blow our horn in terms of what we can do for you and the networks we have, but even just the virtue of being on a trade mission of itself gives greater access than you just going on your own. And that's because there's a lot of goodwill in different government agencies who will support us. But even a lot of the private sector support are more likely to support a group than an individual. So you get that first contact. But I will stand by the fact that we can actually open, just by virtue of our networks, we can open a lot of doors that you won't otherwise be able to open. And you can see that.
Not just our networks. So I think the thing to be clear is that there is a network effect of going with a cohort. So you don't just get our networks, you get everyone else's networks too.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Steve has been on 3 London missions before. He is one of our, I guess, biggest advocates for heading to the UK. But also we have a lot of founders that we've taken on previous missions, and I'm not going to dwell on these now, but I'd encourage you to reach out to any of them. So last year we had 19 founders. Yeah, 19 founders. And you can see them all online. I'm more than happy to make introductions to any of them, not just those that have given written testimonials. But ask around the 300 plus other founders I've taken to different markets previously as well. And I think they can help you understand when is the right time to go, what you can get from the mission. And as I mentioned, we'll be leading you on the way. In terms of inclusions, I've pretty much covered all this, but it's almost everything from when you land in London on the Sunday through to when you finish the mission on the Saturday. We will lead you to all of the places you need to be. You'll have accommodation sorted. 2 dinners are officially included. That said, there's usually events on every night, whether they're networking events, cocktail receptions, pitch events. So most things are catered, but what's not included are your return airfares to and from London, and also your other meals, travel incidentals, travel insurance, that sort of thing. And probably more excitedly for a couple of you that I know are on the Goldie. So the City of Gold Coast are sponsoring up to 10 places on the mission. And I have the eligibility criteria here. So long as you meet these criteria, you're eligible to apply for a sponsored place on the London mission. So this will cover the mission fee. So all those inclusions that were listed before. Key criteria, you have to be over 18 years of age. You have to be the founder or co-founder of a startup or scale-up, which has its primary place of business or work on the Gold Coast. You must be actually able to participate in the entire mission. So obviously, City of Gold Coast don't want to fund you to go over and you can only make it to 2 days, or you don't fully commit to participating in everything. And you must be able to afford to pay for your own flights and other pieces to get there and back. And that's deliberate. Like I will say the reason for that is I've seen founders get much better outcomes when they have some skin in the game and they've made some investment of their own alongside sponsored funding. And the last piece there is you have to be willing to give back. So by that, we mean participate in a debrief event. So we'll host at least one event on the Gold Coast after the mission, and also an online event. And we want you to come and be part of the panel, share your learnings with others, but not just in that form, but also, write blog posts, record some content, tell others about what you learned, what you saw, and impart that knowledge, because we want this to actually have a ripple effect through the ecosystem. So we really want you to give back. But I think on that point, I might actually, I can't remember if there's another slide. Oh, there's just the link. And I will share all these slides afterwards. But Ben and Kerry, Ben, do you want to just speak to anything to add there around the sponsorship and why the City of Gold Coast is backing this?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So hello to everyone, and my name is Ben Foster. I look after our economic development and tourism team for the city. So I guess in short, Aaron's touched on, and the others have touched on a lot of the reasons why, and a lot of our motivation in terms of the city's involvement in this program is exactly the same and mirrors those more broadly. As a bit of background, we've made a commitment generally as part of our next 5-year strategy in terms of economic development for the city and our role that we can play in taking a larger focus in startups and scale-ups in that. So historically, it's always been on the periphery. We've got a mayor who loves talking about, how many startups and scale-ups are organically existing on the Gold Coast. We really haven't found a way to wrap our arms around that community. And so this is about one of our pillars, I guess, of our new 5-year strategy is around what we term as high performance. And we see that very much around the productivity that is driven by startups and scale-ups. And we want to embrace that. So our goals in that process are things like making funding easier to access for Gold Coast startups and scale-ups, supporting their development, and really just building the startup environment more generally, and as I said, wrapping our arms around that. So we've dipped our toes in the water in this space. We, as a city, when I use the royal we invest in programs like LumenX in terms of supporting some of that historically in the past, and some other areas where we've helped out the Gold Coast Innovation Hub in the past, and it's trying to find ways that we can impact, because we're not the experts in this space. We don't profess to be. We know, and we definitely don't want to have that. How should I term this sensitively? We don't want the bureaucracy of local government to slow anyone down. And so we realise that our role here is more one of advocacy and support, as opposed to the ones that are really trying to lead this out. And so that's why we've chosen in this instance to partner with Tribe, and because Aaron mentioned the fact that they've done this a lot in the past. We've also had experience or references from other government agencies who've been involved on these missions in the past, and we see it as a great way that we can offer a bit of a leg up or a help to Gold Coast founders and startups in terms of exploring your mission. And just in the last point that Aaron touched on there in terms of giving back, that's really what we want in terms of outcomes. So we win, as in the city wins when you guys win. So if you're actually delivering upon some of your stated outcomes and goals, if you're making those network connections, if you're, if you've found, that funding, and you can come back and that can help you support you grow and expand on the Gold Coast, because that's one of our other goals. As much as we don't mind the fact that you might be, snatched up and take your business overseas, ideally, we'd like you to see you grow and prosper here within the city. And so if this is a mechanism that we can do that, and it's a small way that we can support that mission, that's really our goal here. So happy to speak to anyone on this. Unfortunately, our resources are limited as well. So as much as we'd like to fund as everyone and anyone, we do only have 10 spaces. So it is competitive. We will be looking for a little bit in terms of where businesses are at and how much they can make an impact. So it is a competitive process. So apologies to anyone if you apply and miss out, but we'd certainly encourage anyone or within your networks who are really keen to get there and take advantage of this to jump on board. So that's probably it from me, Aaron. If there's any other questions, happy to answer them. But yeah, we're really just a role of support and embracing this as a bit of a first step. This is the first startup mission we've taken. We do other missions in other industries and expos and Arab Health and things like this around the world. This is the first one that's really been startup focused, and so that's the goal for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Eden, did you have a question?
Me?
Yeah.
I've probably got heaps of questions.
I just saw you come off mute, so I wasn't sure if you had a specific question.
I know, I was browsing the Tech Week website, to be honest. So I was listening and checking out the timing, which is kind of exciting. I mean, it does sound like a really good program. It's really pleasing to hear the Gold Coast City Council's in support. We're certainly really keen to participate if the opportunity's there.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, you're at a great stage too. So, but yeah, Ben, Perry, you guys have been phenomenal to deal with. For those of you that don't know Ben or Perry, the support from the council has been fantastic. These guys really sprinted at this to make it happen. Perry himself has a lot of experience in this space and has lived in the US, over in California. So he's got his own experience he can speak to too. But yeah, it's fantastic to have the support of the City of Gold Coast for this mission. And we just literally had confirmation about 40 minutes ago that the South Australian government will be funding 10 places as well for SA companies, which is great. For me, the reason in particular why I love that is building that cohort of founders who are on a similar journey who can support and help each other, and particularly those who are doing it from outside of Sydney and Melbourne. I think there's value in that shared experience of what does it look like to be building something from a place like the Gold Coast or a place like Adelaide and taking those companies global. Lena, did you have something you wanted to add there?
All I was going to say was Eden did put a couple of questions in the chat, and maybe they were answered as Aaron went through, Eden, but if they're not, by all means.
Yeah, no, they're not yet, and I do have some more. So if you do want to do some Q&A, I'm happy to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it is Q&A time. To answer those first two, Eden, if you want me to go through them first.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So can you take 2 or more people? Absolutely. The sponsored place is for 1 individual, and the mission price is per individual that's participating in the mission. But there are some options around a twin share room. So the room that you have as part of the mission does actually include it's a private room with a queen bed. So if you wanted to bring a partner, we're not against that. But in terms of participating in the mission itself, they would just have to pay the mission fee to get access to all the ticketed events and everything else.
Yep.
Can you stay beyond the week and schedule additional meetings? Yeah, absolutely. So I actually recommend, if you're serious about expanding to the UK market, which you should be if you're coming on a trip, I actually recommend taking a couple of days in the following week to a full week after, and actually not putting too much into that calendar ahead of time. And so what that's for is meeting with people, like catching up with people you meet during the week. And also you'll get a ton of introductions during the week and you need a time to meet with them. So I'm a big advocate of, if you're making this investment to go to the other side of the world, tacking on some extra time, which is just blank canvas for follow-up meetings, and even heading out to some of the regions or heading into the broader EU market is absolutely worth it.
Yeah, at the time, I mean, it makes sense too if you're booking flights. So we, our goal would be to go as a team of 2 or more. We would probably go for 3 weeks. There's a whole bunch of opportunities for us over there, with people on the ground that can connect us up to a whole bunch of meetings. So if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly. One of the questions that sort of came out for us there's a fair bit to organise, if you really want to maximise the opportunity, including now an awareness of a very large event, which I've been to these things before. And, if you don't plan them, you just wander around, dazzled by them, but you can walk away from them going, I should have put more energy into planning that. And I know it sounds like you guys will obviously play a key role in that. And Marion, really looking forward to working with you. I guess that brings up the question of when that selection process will get finalised, and particularly for a business of our size that's already starting to develop some partnerships and relationships there. If we're this is probably a little bit earlier than we might have done it ourselves, to be fair, but the timing is not that bad, and I share your view that the time is always now. Seize the day. Why put it off? So I think for us, we're already starting to lend our minds to what do we need to do to prepare to maximize the opportunity. So if you guys, I'm not sure how you're proposing to indicate to parties whether they're involved and what that looks like, but it would be helpful to understand that.
Sure.
Yeah, so you go.
Yeah, you go, Mark. No, you go.
I was just going to say registrations do close on the 9th of April at this stage, and then we'll allow a little bit of time to make that selection for the City of Gold Coast to make that selection process. So we're hoping to announce the successful applicants by mid-April. So sort of have a loose date of around the 17th, 18th of April there at this point.
Yep.
And one thing I wanted to add as well, just one thing to keep in mind, because accommodation is included in our package, just to keep in mind that you will have to add accommodation for the extended stay for you and your team. But we can work with you on that as well, and introduce you to the hotel that we are obviously booking with to see if they can simply extend your stay and roll that over.
Where do you
if you want to do that.
Where do you base yourselves in during the Tech Week?
So we're based in Shoreditch. That's worked really well for us. But you obviously have the freedom to stay somewhere else for the remaining days that you are in the UK.
I've stayed in Shoreditch. It's nice. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just adding a couple of things to that, Eden. So in terms of bringing other co-founders in and making the most of it, yeah, that's very common. The WA, so last year, WA government funded 10 places. 4 of those companies brought their co-founder over. So there was quite a large UK Western Australia representation, including one that actually brought one of their UK founders. So someone who was already resident in the UK actually came on the trip as well with us. So yeah, we can manage all those pieces. The process. So after that selection process, we then have a couple of workshops. Myron does some onboarding, which will capture, there'll be some forms you fill out, like just online, but that'll be capturing the types of connections you would like, what support you're looking for, who you need access to. So we start plugging you in quite early. And a lot of that, the actual grunt work is done by the trade commissioners, UK DIT and others their networks will help you find the people you need to be talking to.
Yeah, that would be super helpful.
And if I can add to that, that us helping with the legwork doesn't mean, you're sort of excluded from doing some of the work as well and having a look what's happening in the UK, because what usually happens around London Tech Week, it's not just the London Tech Week events that are taking place. So if you actually go on Eventbrite during June, and do a bit of a browse on what's happening in London, there is a ton of organisations that are hosting events and other conferences, and they might be very industry specific, but it's really worthwhile to having a bit of a browse in what's there. Some of them are paid events, some of them are free events, but it can sort of maximise the value of what you're getting out if you are going for 3 weeks or so.
The other thing too is to get a list of the resources. Like I know there's programs you apply for that are either state or federal sort of funded, grant programs where like your expenses overseas, if you are looking at, and we are genuinely focused on a global expansion strategy. start to attribute those costs outside of the support that the city council will also provide. We've definitely got a really strong base out of the Gold Coast. We've got a pretty cool if you like, headquarters there, and a really good team, most of which is located on the Gold Coast. But we certainly feel like there's a good opportunity to go global with what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things we provide to all the participants is we have a Notion microsite. It's like a 30-page, 40-page site that has lots of links to all the different support that's available. It links to even visa programs, recruitment, HR companies, tax companies, even claiming back your VAT on your expenses when you travel, when you leave to come back home. Like there's a lot of resources in there that you can leverage as well. Yeah,
that's awesome. That sort of local knowledge is really helpful, and by that I mean, just these trips and how to structure it all. Yeah.
Any other questions from anyone?
Aaron, the only thing I'd add just to Eden's first question about the selection process, obviously we'll give everyone an opportunity right up until the 9th to actually submit their application, but we'll probably start reviewing them before that deadline date, and so making some pre-assessments and things like that. So we will leave the opportunity. So in the interest of fairness, we won't close it until the 9th. And so, but if you can get your applications in earlier, that certainly helps the process as well, in terms of us understanding and who's potentially in that pool and making some assessments. So if we can accelerate that process to help planning and things like that, we'd love to do that as well, where we can.
Fantastic. The other thing I'd like to extend an offer to both to Tribe and obviously the Gold Coast City Council is feel free to utilize Autoguru. Like we're a decent size, we're reasonably well known, and we've got a really cool space. We're actually we're lucky enough to pick up Surf Stitch's old office before they, when they scurried out the back door. We jumped in there pretty quickly. I tell you what, they cut the cables when they bloody left. It was an absolute challenge to get in there quickly, but we've got a great space. We're really happy to support these programs. We're actually excited to work and get much closer to the Gold Coast City Council and certainly the community on the Gold Coast. We're hosting one of the hub events in the coming months at our office, so hit us up if you need anything. I'm really happy to support this program and make as much noise as we can about it, even pre the selection process, because I really do think that these programs are good, and I really do want to support, that these sort of ventures that actually contribute to making the Gold Coast a hotspot to attract technology people, to attract other businesses. I think that this is how, we make it the sort of kind of destination that's going to benefit us as residents, but also business people, which is close to my heart.
Yeah, absolutely, Eden. That is awesome. I think I'll definitely take you up on that.
Yeah,
in terms of great. So and one other thing to let you all know is we have a face-to-face information session on the 29th of March. So just a little over a week. That's from 4 o'clock. That's at the Cohort Innovation Space at Southport. So a chance for us to plug into the community that exists there and the awesome work that Ben's been doing, particularly in the health and knowledge precinct and with Lumina X and other programs running out of there. So we'll be sharing the details for that if you do want to come along and join and meet some of the others that have applied and start building those relationships. But yeah, Eden, I'd love to host something with you, mate. That'd be great.
The other thing too is I've got that LinkedIn group. I started a Gold Coast Founders Christmas party about 3 years ago, just as a fun little side, to meet some of the locals. There's about 150 founders in that group now on LinkedIn. So if you want me to post, I'm sure it's everywhere. I've been seeing it all through LinkedIn already, so I'll be surprised if anybody's not aware of it. But anything you want to share, feel free. Like as much as you can get out there, the better. But we'll come along to the cohort thing as well.
Yeah, mate, if you could share it in there, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, send me whatever you need, whatever you want to share, and I'm happy to plug it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We might drag you along to the next one.
Yeah, that'd be good. Sue, Peter, Elizabeth. Oh, Elizabeth, you just came off mute.
Oh, did I? No. Yes, I was trying to start video. I was going to say, what's the name of your Facebook group?
I think it's just called GC Founders. Hold on a second. I should know such a thing, shouldn't I? It's a little. I'll ping you a link.
Okay.
I can't see it on my Facebook profile right now, but it's got a ton of people in it. Here we go. GC Founders and Startups.
One thing we. Oh, sorry, Ed.
We're connected, Elizabeth, so I'll ping it to you.
Thanks, Aidan.
One thing I didn't mention before, Ben, was that investors can also apply for a place, and the preference is for founders of companies to be heading over. But the City of Gold Coast is also keen to be activating more high net worths to invest locally and invest in early stage tech companies. So if you fit that category, or if there's anyone in your network that perhaps is a high net worth individual that hasn't yet invested in the tech space, or maybe they're quite early in their investing journey, they encourage them to apply as well. The preference, I'm right in saying it's a preference, Ben, that we take founders over, but if there is capacity there, we'd love to be activating more investment locally on the Gold Coast as well.
Yep, I'd echo that. It's again one of those goals is, capital, or make it more of it more easily accessible for Gold Coasters and Gold Coast businesses is one of the stated goals. And yeah, Eden, appreciate your support as well. We certainly would love to engage more and take you up on that. So
it's an awesome destination. And, I've been here for a long time now, and I've definitely seen it change. Like, I've had a digital agency, which I brought up from Melbourne, and I mean, that was 20 years ago. And, just to see it change in that time, is phenomenal. I don't have as strong connections to Melbourne these days because we had the business in both locations at one stage. But as we moved into Autoguru, I gave up the client work and just focused on the startup. But I think it's a great place to found a business. I think it's it's a good place to scale a business. But we definitely need to create more energy. As these businesses get bigger, we definitely want to see some really thumping tech companies, take root here, because that'll fire everyone up.
Yep, completely.
Mm.
Myron, Jack, Elaine, anything I've missed? Anything we should add?
No, I don't think so, except just to say, if any questions do pop into your head afterwards, I think Myron's just put hers and Aaron's email in the chat in the event something occurs to you later and you think, oh, wished I'd asked that. But reach out to us anytime.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for spending the time with us. I hope to see you all in London. It'd be great to have this group over for a beer on the kickoff Sunday afternoon and then head into a week of London Tech Week. So if you haven't applied yet, I know Eden's application went in, I think it was within minutes of it going live. I saw the Autoguru application. But if you haven't applied yet for a funded place, please do. But also equally, for those of you that are looking for a paid place or not eligible for a sponsored place, the early bird pricing is live for not much longer, actually, because I think we might hit that quota. So if you do want to take advantage of that, please jump in and sign up. But otherwise, for those of you that can make it on the 29th of March, so I think Myron put 28th of March in there, but it's actually the 29th of March for the face-to-face. We'll see you there for that. And
that's it.
Otherwise,
you just hit a good final question, and sorry to throw this curveball at you, but if you've got early bird pricing, but there's potential for funding, and I can tell you now, every startup right now has to be cash positive because I'm not aware of anybody that's getting away with burning lots of cash. How are you going to manage that as far as, you know, the dichotomy of do you buy a spot now or do you hold out on the hope that you get funded? How are you going to manage that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Eden. So thanks for throwing me under the bus, and I'll just make something off the top of my head.
We can edit this part. This is the part we're going to edit.
No, look, I'd be happy. Anyone that applies and isn't successful, I'd be happy to honour the early bird pricing. The only caveat on that being that the unknown of accommodation and pricing there. But so long as we've got that capacity and that's squared away, yeah, we can honour that early bird for those that apply. Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron. We can have a beer over that one later,
mate. It's a perfect question, and we need to look after the founders, so it's all good.
Yeah, look, we're really excited about the program. It's why we, you know, put in the application pretty quick. So, you know, there's a lot going on, but I feel the energy over there looks interesting.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for your time. And
Thank you.
Hope to see you at the next one sometime.
Cheers, team.
Thank
Yeah, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, Sue.